Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. This video is going to be a short reading for people who are looking for guidance on their spiritual path and personal growth. What I'm feeling here is that when you're pursuing a spiritual path, it can get very detached from the physical world for people at some times. Even when you're pursuing the higher, if you're not able to ground it into the physical reality, into your physical body, it doesn't do you a lot of good. There needs to be more of a focus of pursuing the higher in a way that you can ground it into your life in practical ways. Taking the circumstances and the environment that's already around you and allowing that to work with you towards your goals. There may be some people who need to see through the harder work of the dark night of the soul, where when you first start pursuing spiritual path, everything is beautiful and exciting and new, but there comes a time where it gets really hard and everything around you starts to feel dark and meaningless and devoid of value. But you need to once again ground that love and that spirituality into the physical environment and world around you. Because if you were meant to only pursue the spiritual, you wouldn't be here in a physical body. And the hardest part of the spiritual path in a lot of ways is really incorporating it into day-to-day life and allowing it to be an example to other people who also want to follow that path and want to find more joy and more purpose and more love in their life and their experiences. This is also showing me this blending, this alchemical wedding of Kether and Malkuth in the Kabbalah, or the highest emanation of spirit and the lowest, most dense emanation of physical being. There are many things in the spiritual path in the highest realms that are hard to translate into the physical, but there is always a way to bring it down in a practical way. Even if by doing that you negate some of the spiritual context of it, because to be something is to not be something else. It's going to have to be subject to opposites and duality. But it will still have a meaning and purpose and value here in this world. And I feel that a lot of people who are pursuing the spiritual path may need a little bit more balance. Again, when you first start, you may want to lock yourself in a room and meditate for hours a day and do nothing but do magic rituals and read spiritual texts and, immerse yourself fully in that world. But even at those points, you need this balance of grounded, practical living and more esoteric spiritual practice, or whatever path you follow. It doesn't have to be esoteric. And just having more balanced emotions and thoughts and actions will be very helpful to people. And there is also a need to understand that there's always another step on the path. Even if we reach the highest point in physical reality, that's only the beginning of another cycle. You're never really going to get to the end while you're here, I don't believe. So understand that it's going to take elaborate maneuvers, and be willing to just have peace with where you are and pursuing that next step. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. Try not to believe that you are further than where you are. It is better to think that you are not as far as you are than it is to think that you are further ahead than what you really are. That can begin to create distortions, and those have a tendency to spread out to others in forms of misinformation and in misleading ways. Also going to pull one card from the Enochian deck. Anybody who is pursuing, a more esoteric spiritual path, if you haven't done Enochian magic, I highly suggest looking into it. It can seem really overwhelming and confusing. There's some good books out there. There's an Enochian workbook. Of course, Juan Milo Duquette's Enochian Vision Magic is a great place to start. And there are, like the Golden Dawn versions of Enochian magic, and then the more traditional John D. Edward Kelly versions. Start with the simple versions, just start with scrying the aethers. And make sure that you have the right tools. You don't have to go and buy a bunch of expensive fancy shit on Etsy. You don't have to pay hundreds of dollars for wax sigils and all of that. You can print them off, you can color them yourself, you can make them yourself, you can make a Pele ring yourself out of a piece of cardboard like Juan Milo Duquette has said. It's more important to set up the tools right and do the work in earnest than it is to get elaborate, expensive shit. It's not meant to be inaccessible to people. So, I'm going to pull off the top. The wheel. This is very much about accepting the cycles within the spiritual path. You continue to experience the same world and the same things over and over and over again, but you experience them from a different perspective or a different level of consciousness in a new way. Try to recognize those cyclical patterns. Try to recognize when you are in a place that you've already been, but perhaps from a higher level. Take the wisdom of that past experience and try to apply it to where you are this time, while also maybe thinking about what the next highest experience of that will be. I also feel the wheel, for me, that always relates to Rhoda and tarot. Incorporating some form of divination, especially tarot, can be very helpful on your path. It's a very helpful tool of self-reflection. Tarot is so much better for self-reflection and spiritual work than it is as, a fortune-telling tool. Does it do that? Yes, it can. But I don't think that's its highest use. And I specifically recommend tarot because tarot has the entire universe contained within it. You can use other methods and definitely use whatever you feel drawn to, whatever you feel is right for you. But picking up a daily practice like that may be helpful to taking some of this advice, grounding the spiritual into the physical world, getting through dark nights of the soul or plateaus, or parts that are a little bit more hard work, and having a little bit more balance in your path. Thank you all for watching. I wish you all the best. Love is the law. Love under will.